A very good morning to all of you present. Let us go into the class today. Yesterday in the class we saw on the learning process and on the intelligent development of the children. Today we will go with the process and we are going to continue with the cognitive development of the child. So, how this is happening is the learning happens in a very gradual manner and intelligence also grows in a gradual manner. Let us go into the process. We saw that there is a concept called discrete process and the continuous process. Discrete process happens in a very stage wise manner and continuous process happens in a very progressing manner. So, we are going to see into the cognitive development that happens in a discrete manner as well as in the continuous manner. So, we have a famous psychologist who is Jean Piaget, who has given up the concept of cognitive development and he has given this cognitive development in a stage wise manner. So, the first stage he describes is the sensory motor stage, the second stage is followed as pre-operational stage, third stage is concrete stage and the fourth stage is formal operational stage. So, let us go into one by one. Today we are going to see only the sensory motor stage. So, let us look into what happens in the sensory motor stage. So, baby as soon as it is born, it has the basic reflexes happening in the child. So, the child goes through the basic reflex which is thumb sucking, going towards the mother or cooing, all this happens in the very basic stage of the child's growth. So, all these are reflexes and which develops into a very random behavior and then develops as a goal oriented behavior. And these three processes have been given by Piaget as sensory motor stage and this sensory motor stage is further divided into 6 substages. Let me open the PowerPoint to you and describe what are these substages. There are 6 substages. The first one is use of reflexes. So, what we understand from the word reflex is that the automatic process of reacting to a stimulus. So, here the baby as soon as gets into the sensation, that is basically what sensory motor is all about. The sensation is hunger. So, the baby gets the hunger and wants to get that fulfilled and so it automatically goes to the mother for satisfying the hunger. So, here that is how the reflex mechanism works. And this is followed by the primary circular reaction. This is a very interesting concept. So, what happens in a primary circular reaction is that the baby gets the development of looking into the feeding bottle and going into getting the pacification of the hunger. So, that is a development which is happening normally for the baby. Another example will be thumb sucking. So, here we can say that the pacifying is getting shifted to thumb sucking. So, the baby once gets the pleasure that the senses getting fulfilled, does it repeatedly for sucking the thumb. So, that gets motivated and gets learned and development happens in the child. So, what kind of development happens? That is the intelligence process. So, slowly you can see simultaneously the learning is happening and the intelligence is also happening simultaneously. So, that is why I remember quoting discrete and continuous process. It is a sub stage, but it is happening continuously. So, here let us proceed with the primary circular reaction. Let me read it for you. It happens 1 to 4 months and that when a child is given a bottle, it is able to feed the bottle by sucking into the rubber nipple. So, it can adjust its ability to move towards the bottle and move towards the action and basically to fulfill the hunger. And the second stage after it is fulfilled, the baby moves to the secondary circular reaction which is the third stage. So, this is again an interesting concept wherein here the cognitive development is that the child now tries to get into the intentional stage process. So, what is intentional is earlier it was basically reflex, that it is automatic way of reacting to the stimulus and responding to the stimulus. Here the thinking has developed and intelligence also has developed and the child moves in to explore the world around him. So, how he explores is that, say for example, you give a child a ping pong ball and the child drops it onto the floor. The next step is the child finds it fascinating. Remember, the senses is getting activated, the child is getting happier and it wants to do it again. So, that is basically what sensory motor stage is all about. So, the next time the child sees the ping pong ball, it automatically picks up another ball and tries to drop it onto the floor to check whether the same process of bouncing happening again. So, that is repeated process and it is intentional, the baby is doing it intentionally, and there is one thing that we need to note is that it is not goal oriented. So, that is a major difference between secondary circular reaction and the next stage, which is tertiary circular reaction. So, let me carry on with the tertiary circular reaction, which happens from the age 12 to 18 month, and this 12 to 18 month is predominantly occupied with goal oriented stage. And what do we mean by here is that intentional stage is that the child is exploring the world, but remember the child, once you take away the ping pong ball, the example that I quoted, once you take away the ping pong ball, the child basically do not know how else to proceed further. But here in this stage of tertiary circular reaction, the child gets the cognition, that is the intelligence has developed and the child knows how best to manipulate the circumstance. So, I will give you an example that accidentally the child stamps on a rubber duck and the rubber duck squeezes, and this is followed that the child also tries to explore into the world of getting the sound and gets the satisfaction that there is some amusement happening, and this amusement is making the child to do further. So, remember sensory motor initialization has to happen, and the child now initializes in pressing the duck again to squeeze it again to explore the sound that is coming out of the duck. But here beyond exploration, it is a stage which is involved with goal oriented. So, what does the child do? The child tries to find out whether stamping on the duck only is giving the sound or squeezing also gives the sound, right. So, now the child accidentally stamped on the duck and it gave the sound. Now, it tries to pick up the duck, try to squeeze it. Remember, it does not happen suddenly, it is all happening, that is why it is a process of learning. It is also a process of intelligence wherein the child gets the initiation to press the duck, squeeze the duck. That is how the intelligence of the child matters, and always the process of giving in this feedback matters in the hands of the parents and in the environment. So, squeezing of the duck is initially the exploration that has to come from the child, but if it does not come, always the parents needs to help or the teachers needs to help to guide the child to get into the process of exploring the world around him. So, that summarizes the tertiary circular reaction. Okay, so that we covered the sensory substages, which are 6 substages, and let me just carry it on with the intellectual process that is happening. Remember, learning is happening, intelligence is also growing, they both are happening simultaneously, and try to connect this with the concept of discrete growth and continuous growth. So, I hope you are thorough and able to follow me. So, let me now teach you another concept, which is imitation. Remember, imitation is a very simple word, which is very layman word which everybody can understand. This imitation is, remember, when a mother smiles, the child also smiles back. When you put your tongue out, the child also tries to replicate that. So, this is basically what imitation is all about. Basically, the child is trying to replicate what you are doing, that is imitating. So, this is facial expressions. Initially, the child might not know what his face movements are, but later on his memory develops and he will also try to bring in those past imitations that the mother has done. Say for example, clapping, the very basic example. The child knows to cheer himself up by clapping. So, it is a process and it develops. So, how is this related to learning and intelligence is that the child, as the substages are developing to primary circular reaction, secondary circular reaction, tertiary circular reaction, as these are developing, the child is also getting acquainted with the world that is around him and trying to grab those stimulus from the environment and trying to put into the world of his cognitive development. So, that is these processes. So, one is imitation, the second one is object permanence. This is a very, very basic growth that everybody plays with a child, as a peekaboo game. So, we must have seen your grandparents play with you, your mother play with you, or you must have seen other children being prompted with a peekaboo game. So, how this happens is that it's object permanence. Object is anything that is visible and permanence is permanently that is there. And this is a concept which tries to get into the child that there is an object present even if you hide it. Okay, that is the concept that has to get into the child, it has to register into the child. How this happens is, initially step 1, you give the ball, cover it with a cloth and expose the child who is around 3 months to 4 months. The child does not know that there is a ball inside the cloth, it does not know that. So, slowly next month you do the same activity again, the child tries to understand that there is a ball hidden. So, he tries to lift off the cloth and tries to see that there is a ball hidden inside the cloth. And then the next growth, the next stage is that the child kinds of identify that there is a cloth hidden inside the, there is a ball hidden inside the cloth, and he tries to lift off the cloth and gets amazed with the ball that is hidden inside the cloth. Then next stage is that you try to take the ball and keep it in the place where the balls are stored and then try to play the game of hide and seek. The child gets to understand this is the place where the balls are need to be stored and that is where I have to go and identify, find out, and all these are development that happens through the cognitive process that happens within the child, right. And this object permanence is a very crucial development. If not developed, there are chances for the child to have very delayed development, and there are chances for the child to be in need of early intervention. And we have learned in the previous class what early interventions are and how important these interventions are. So, if the child does not develop this particular stage, then it is very crucial that we need to make this happen. Remember, it is a delay but not a disability. So, delay can be rectified, and so we need to guide the child in order to develop this particular stage. So, that is object permanence. The next concept is symbolic development. This is where the child identifies that the world around him are representation of symbols through pictures, words, numbers, etc. So, as the child is growing, at the very young age, at about say 8 months, the child might not have developed vocabulary, but does know to identify by pointing out the picture, by talking in babbling words, and all these are development that happens. So, they are trying to represent what they see through their gestures, through their language, through their vocabulary. They even point out, they even coo, they even talks to the mother in the way the mother understands. So, that is the development, that is the symbolic representation. And we need to understand very important concept here is a representational hypothesis. What is this is that when a child is representing an object, it blindly follows that is how it is represented. Meaning when a child is watching a TV, it takes that everything that is shown in the TV are reality. Say for example, nowadays we have this is in real happening, which is very essential for you all to understand that. You must have seen YouTube videos that shows baking concept, which happens within 2 minutes. The entire baking process is speeded up, forwarded, and the cake gets baked up in 2 minutes. And the child who watches this baking video literally relates it to the 2 minutes and craves for baking to happen within 2 minutes. So, this is the representational hypothesis, and through this we have to understand that the concrete stage is kind of in development, and the child is very concrete, very narrow in the thinking, and does not know how things develop and how abstract the concepts are. So, we need to be very crucial when this process happens, and we need to the parents' responsibility is that they need to explain to the child, talk to the child, experiment with the child, explore with the child in order to make them understand how reality is different from what they see and what they get in the process of their development. Yes, so that is symbolic development that happens with the child. Let me show you a video on this object permanence concept, and as you can see, it is a discrete stage, but this stage has got the continuous development of imitation, symbolic representation, and the primary circular stage, secondary, you can see the entire stages that happens within the sensory motor stage. So, this video will be very interactive, meaning there are few questions that comes in between. You will have to answer these questions, only then it will take you to the next stage. And I will play the video, and let us go through the video. Let us summarize this class today, that we started off by finding how the previous class has given up to today's addition to the class. So, we saw learning, intelligence, how they play a major role with the cognitive development of the child, and we also saw the cognitive development substages, which is first one sensory motor stage, and that was divided as 6 substages, and this whole process was given by Jean Piaget. And we also saw imitation process, object permanence, symbolic representation. These are all individual concepts. As I said earlier, these are all discrete, but it takes place in a very continuous, progressive, gradual manner. So, for tomorrow let us meet again and discuss on these concepts. So, go through these concepts, study, and we will have a quiz tomorrow. Thank you everybody.